The following is paid programming.
It's time to talk taxes.
New friends, new opportunities, new partners. EG Tax.
It's Ask the Tax Lady with Esther Gulius and EG Tax on News Radio 930 WBEN. To reach Esther now, call 803-0930. Toll free at 1-800-616-9236. And cell calls are free at star 930. And now, live from the WBEN studios, it's Esther Gulius.
Hey, everybody, this is the Tax Lady, and this is our hour to talk taxes. And I will tell you, this is it. I mean, it's the end is upon us, and we certainly want to help you. And I'm joined in studio with Chris Fabian. Hey, Chris, how you doing?
Hello, Esther.
Hello, Christopher. Did you read that bulletin that came out today? They've shortened the tax season till April the 5th, so we only have really 5 more days until the end of tax season.
Okay,
and so
I'm moving up my vacation.
You can't. It's April the 5th. That's what we're going to...
I know, but it was April 19th I was leaving. Now it's April 6th. Sorry.
April Fools. That's my April Fool's joke. No, it's April the 18th. I'm just kidding, you guys. It's April the 18th, and I wanted to talk about this time, and I know we got calls coming in. 803-0930, 803-0930, star 930 on your cell phone. What if you owe money? And there's things that you can do, right? Even right now, there's things you can do.
Yeah, there's lots of things. I mean, the most important thing is to file your return.
And that's exactly right, because the big penalty is for not filing your return. Now, you would think the big penalty would be because you didn't pay your taxes. Not true. No. The big penalty is if you don't file your return.
Right. They think you're avoiding them, so they're going to penalize you for that.
That's right. And that penalty can be about 25%.
Yep.
And the failure to pay penalty is like half of a 1%. So, I mean, the big penalty is if you don't file the return. So, yep. But let's say that you do owe money. One of the first things you can do is double check the numbers.
That's right. Double check, go over everything, see if you made a mistake. Was there a rollover from a pension that wasn't coded right? Was there withholding?
Well, one example, I had a gentleman yesterday that came in, and he sold stock. And he's been keeping track of his basis, but he has reinvested dividends, and he never adjusted the cost basis. And these reinvested dividends are like $10,000 a year, and he hasn't been adjusting his cost basis. So it meant that when he sold his stock, he overpaid the taxes. Yep. So you want to make sure that you're keeping track of your basis correctly.
That's right. That's right. One of the things, maybe you had first, speaking of stock, the first Niagara stock that got converted to KeyBank. And you have that 1099 and it has an X, a D, and an A. Well, the X has the big chunk of your sale of that first Niagara stock with no cost basis.
Right.
If you just record that as a sale,
you overpaid.
You overpaid.
Right. So that's so important when you're taking a look at those brokerage statements. And I know that people don't understand the brokerage statements. They don't understand what A and B and D means. But here's the thing. Go to a reputable firm who knows taxes. And for instance, let's say you have $5,000 in stock that you're going to sell incorrectly. It could cost you $1,000 in taxes or more, state and federal, because the state doesn't give you any break anyway. Uh-huh. And if you had it done professionally, it might cost you $100. So you've just saved yourself time, aggravation, and you make sure it's done correctly.
Right.
Right?
Definitely.
Another thing is qualified dividends. Qualified dividends are reported on a Schedule D. That's where the computation is. And so, again, if you owe money, make sure that you've looked at your qualified dividends properly, right?
Yep.
Okay, let's go to the phones because I know we got people waiting. 803-0930, 803-0930, star 930 on a cell phone, and we'll go to Joe in North Tonawanda. Hello, Mr. Joe.
Hello, Esther.
How are you? What can we do for you?
Yeah, I have a question. My daughter is living out of the country, and I'm looking at the full earned income exclusion, and she's well under that, and just wondered does she have to file since she will not owe taxes?
Yes, she has to file. You would record it as wages on line 7, and then you do the form 2555, which would back out the wages on line 21 of the 1040.
But she's been out of the country for more than 330 days consecutively?
Yes.
Okay, so you got to do the 2555. If you don't file the return, Joe, here's what happens. The IRS in their database has all the information, and it's just going to do a mock tax return for people that haven't filed. The IRS doesn't know that your daughter's in France or someplace, okay? Unless you file that return and do the 2555, which is the foreign tax exclusion, foreign income exclusion, they don't know about it, and they will send her a bill.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Joe. I'm Esther Golias, the tax lady from EG Tax, 8030930, 8030930, star 930 on a cell phone. We're getting down to the wire, and we're getting all loaded up with appointments, right, Chris?
Yep,
So the
yep.
offices are open 9 to 9 Monday through Friday,
Right.
and 9 to 5 on Saturday like
Yep.
today. Tomorrow the mall offices in McKinley and Niagara Factory Outlet are
Yep.
open mall hours,
Yep.
right?
So we're there for you, and I believe the last Saturday of tax season, the
We're
15th,
gonna be there
we'll
9 to 9.
9 to 9.
Yeah.
So, for you procrastinators, we're trying to make it work for
That's
you.
exactly right. Also, if you owe money, make sure that you're reading the forms correctly. One of the biggest errors you can make, I had a gentleman that came in the other day, and he did his own tax return for the last few years, and he had put the D, on the D on your wages, as if it was a IRA contribution. So he listed the wages after the subtraction, and then it was listed as an IRA contribution twice. So I said, they're going to send you a bill for that, And he said, but the tax company did it. I didn't know how to do it. The software did it. But, you got to make sure that you're looking at reading the forms correctly, because the forms really dictate the way you handle
Right.
the money. Like
Yep.
wages are taxed differently than capital gains.
Code W on your W-2 is for your health savings account, which
right.
if you had distribution, you better do the 8889,
That's
or
right.
you're going to get
A
letter
bill in the
with
summertime,
Yep.
right? All right, let's go back to the phones, and we'll talk to Dennis in Cheektowaga. Hello, Dennis.
Hi, Esther. How are you?
I'm good. What can we do for you, sir?
I have rental property, and therefore I generate a Schedule E.
Right.
I've also printed out Form 8582, but I didn't get a 4562. Now, should that be printing out every year, or only when I add new depreciation?
Well, if you have depreciation, there'll be a 4562. Is your house fully depreciated?
I don't believe so, no.
So there should be a 4562, because that's where the summary of depreciation comes.
When did you buy your house?
It was 20 years ago, 22 years ago.
Could be fully depreciated. Take a look and see if you haven't already written off that asset.
It says 27 and a half years.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
then-
it shouldn't. I don't know why it didn't print, but it should have, because if the depreciation's on the line, it does. Now, on the depreciation line on the Schedule E, does it show depreciation?
It does, yes.
Then there should
There
be a form.
4562.
Yeah.
Okay, so something's screwy. Okay, one other question. I'm filing my mother's final tax return. She passed last year.
Okay.
Is there anything special I have to do?
Not really. I mean, you have the income from the time that she was alive, right?
Mm-hmm.
And after she passed, what happened to her assets?
Her assets were bank accounts, things of that nature, which were in our children's names. We each have a portion of it as part of checking or savings. So they will be distributed once we sell the house.
Okay, but let's go back to that. So your mother had bank accounts that your kids also were listed on, correct?
Yes. Uh-huh.
All right, so the bank accounts probably didn't throw much income, correct?
Correct.
All right, so just the bank account, and that's all that there is after her death?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I was thinking about a fiduciary return, but it sounds like you wouldn't have to file one.
If there is a refund, you will have to do a 1310 to accompany the return to get the refund.
Right, that'll go to you.
Okay.
Okay?
Very good.
Thanks, Dennis.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. I'm Esther Golias, the tax lady from EG Tax, 8030930, 8030930, star 930 on your cell phone. We're going to take a short break. We'll be back with John and Steve and Dave and Nancy and you on the other side.
Don't you know
Don't you know that April the 18th is the deadline this year? And that ain't no April Fool, because I was kidding before. But April the 18th is a filing deadline. And I'm from EG Tax. I'm Esther Gillius of Tax Lady, Christopher Fabian. And don't you know if you need help, we'll help you. Right,
That's
Chris?
right. We're always there.
We are more or less always there. Except when we go to bed at 1 o'clock in the morning or whatever, something like that. I wanted to talk about what happens if you owe taxes. Are you taxing yourself when you take a look at your tax on something that you shouldn't be taxable? Like, for instance, are you including your kid's W-2 on your tax return? Right. People think that's what you got to do. And the IRS isn't going to send you a letter that says, gee, that shouldn't be on your tax return. Are you including some of your children's small investments on your tax return? Maybe you have kids that have $20 or $30 in bank interest in their name. It doesn't go on your tax return. You can make an election if there would have been kiddie taxes included, but you don't have to include it. Are you taxing yourself on workers' compensation? Workers' comp is tax-free. Or how about, are you including your New York State refund and it shouldn't be included?
And you don't have to.
Right. Like, let's say, for instance, if you're an itemizing taxpayer and last year you had a $1,000 refund on the state, your inclination, if you're a self-preparer, might be to put that $1,000 on the federal because that's what it says.
Yep.
But the truth is you got to go back and look at your New York State return. If you had a $400 education credit, a $330 child tax credit, and a $200 fireman's credit, that means you had $930 in credits. That's what made the $1,000 refund. In fact, all you should have to pay taxes on is $70.
Right.
So you have to adjust that. So all those kind of things. So if you left that $1,000 on your tax return and you're in the 25% bracket, you just overpaid by $250. So all those things are really, really important. The other thing is I've seen people on their Schedule Cs or on their corporation who borrowed money and they put it in as income, right?
Yep.
And borrowed money doesn't go in as income. Borrowed money's tax-free.
That's right. Well, we just had the caller who had a rental property. What about people who don't claim depreciation because they said, oh, I don't want to recapture, I don't want to claim it all.
And I don't know how to do it. Right.
Yep. So, but they're missing a huge expense every year. But the sad part is when you go to sell it, the IRS says, we don't care if you took it or not.
You got to put it on your tax return.
Yep.
That's exactly right. Let's go back to the phones. Let's see who's been here so long. Mr. Steve. Hi, Steve. How can we help you?
Hi. Thanks for taking my call.
You're welcome.
I received, through my father's death, an inherited IRA.
Okay.
And for the past 10 years, I've taken minimum distribution. What would the penalties be if I took additional monies out?
Well, how old was Dad when Dad passed?
88.
Okay. So you're going to be able to exclude on the state of New York that up to $20,000. But if you were, how old are you, Steve?
61.
So the only thing that's going to be taxable is the income that you get.
There's no penalty.
Yeah.
Just the income.
Right.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you very much.
You're welcome, sir. Bye-bye.
Hey.
Let's see. We're going to go back to the phones and talk to Nancy. Hi, Nancy. How can we help you?
Hi, Esther. I had 100 shares of First Niagara stock that was sold to KeyBank due to the merger.
Yep.
And instead of getting the 100 shares of Key stock, I received 68 shares of Key stock and 230 in cash.
Mm-hmm.
My problem is how to figure out what I put in the columns D and E of Form 8949. I can't seem to get, I called the IRS. I could not get an answer from them.
Well, it looks like 23%.
Yeah,
is the cost basis of what you paid originally.
Right. What normally happens, it all zeroes out on the Schedule D or Form 8949. And then whatever basis you have remaining becomes your basis in the new KeyBank stock. So if you have a basis out there of $15,000.
All right. So that what Chris is saying is if you paid and had reinvested dividends of $15,000, I'll interpret. Go.
Okay.
Go, Chris.
Okay. And so they gave you $5,000 cash. Okay. That means you take $5,000 out of that $15,000. You zero, so you'll pay
So then your
no
cost
tax.
basis is $5,000. You sold it for $5,000. You have zero gain.
Okay. Then your Key stock that they gave you will have a cost basis of $10,000.
Okay.
Are you there, Nance?
Yeah, no, I'm not following this, but
You're not going to pay tax this year.
I mean, you have to do this. You have to report the sale, okay?
right.
And what Chris is saying is that the cost basis in the First Niagara stock will equal part of the cost base will equal what you got in cash, so that you're going to have a cost and a sale that's going to be the same. They'll zero out, and then the balance would be your basis when you go to sell your KeyBank stock.
Okay.
I don't know how else to explain it, Nance.
That's okay. That's all right. All right. Well, thank you very much.
You're welcome, dear. Bye-bye.
What I would do, Nancy, is put down that you have no gain or loss, and then in May, come in and sit down with one of us, and we'll go over on paper and
how
show
to
you.
compute that basis, right? And it's not like you just put down in paper, I have no gain or loss. You don't write that.
Yeah.
The IRS does not understand. Don't put big notes to the IRS. They don't read the notes. They read forms, okay? Forms are what go into the computer, and when you talk to the IRS, you have to talk to them in form language. So you're going to go to the Schedule D, and you're going to go to the form that's going to list that you have a sale of First Niagara stock, and the cost basis is what the sale price is, so it'll be a zero gain, okay? So that's what you put on the form.
Yep.
But you can write them a note all you want. I'm Esther Gilius, the tax lady from EG Tax, 8030930, 8030930, star 930 on a cell phone. And we're going to go to Charles in Tonawanda. Hi, Charles.
I have actually two questions. The first thing is, I owed the state from last year, which they took from my federal return this year. But I did my tax approximately 8 weeks ago. I still didn't get my New York State return. Is there a reason why?
Well, how much did you owe New York State?
About $1,500.
And was your federal more than enough to cover it?
Yes, it was.
Okay. I mean, New York State now is starting to delay. They're researching stuff. Your best bet is to call them on Monday at 518-457-5181 and wait to talk to a person and get them on the phone and see what's going on with your state refund.
Okay, yeah, because it's been like about 8 weeks, like I was saying, and everything.
Yep.
Okay, well, the important thing is don't choose the automated option that says I'm calling about where my refund is, because then you won't talk to a person. The important thing, Charles, is to make sure that you want to talk to somebody. You want information on your account. So don't go to where's my tax refund, but talk to a person who's going to look it up and then give them the information that you just gave us.
Okay.
All right?
Alrighty. Okay.
Thanks, Charles.
All right.
Bye-bye. I'm Esther Gilius, the tax lady from EG Tax, 8030930, 8030930, star 930 on a cell phone. All right. Now, what if you owe, and you take a look at your tax return, and you can't find anything that you that you did incorrectly? One of the other things that you can do is, if you had wages, is potentially open up an IRA. Wages or self-employment.
Right.
I've been doing that for the last 3-4 weeks. When I get all done, in the back of my head, I think I'm going to show them what an IRA will do for them. And I'll say, would you like to see what an IRA would do to this situation? And they'll say, no, I don't want to see. Well, can I just show it to you? So I go in and I say, now, if we did $13,000, your balance due of $3,000 goes to a refund of $3,000. And they go, goes to a refund of $1,000. And they go, what? You mean if I just put money in an IRA and I'm over the age of 59 and a half and I could take that out without penalty, that I would save $4,000 in taxes? Yes, you would. And then you can see the spin.
Yep.
Well, you know what? We'll do that.
Yep.
Or
what about $6,500? Then they'll start, well, we could do this. Let's see.
How about $4,000? The whole thing is you can open up an IRA right now up till April the 18th, traditional IRA. And if you're a couple over the age of 50 and you have wages up to $13,000 and you don't have a qualified pension plan and all that stuff and you're not a phase out, you can put up to $13,000 away in a couple. Or if you're a single person, $6,500. And if you're under the age of 50, $5,000, $5,500. You know, it's a great deduction that you create. And if you have the money just kind of sitting in the bank, it's like getting 30% interest.
Definitely. You can't make that kind of money anymore.
That's right. That's right. All right, let's go back to the phones again. 8030930, 8030930, star 930 on a cell phone, and I'm going to go to Mr. Bob. Hi, Bob. How can we help you?
Hi. Hey, I was wondering, I am my income is at a level where it phases out for the American Opportunities Tax Credit.
Uh-huh.
And it also phases out for the exemption.
Uh-huh.
Wondering, can I pay for my son, he's away at school, but I pay for everything. He qualifies as a dependent, but if I elect not to take him as a dependent, would I then, could he then take the American Opportunity Tax Credit on his return?
How much money does he make, Bob?
He makes a couple thousand, so he pays no taxes.
Well, see, that's the whole thing, it's not going to benefit him. But let me ask you this. Are you covered under a qualified plan at work?
Yes.
So you do. So, and your wife is as well?
Yes. But I was thinking, what about on the American tax credit? They say 40% or up to $1,000 is refundable.
Not for him.
Not if he qualifies
you
to be.
You got to do page 2 of the form, and there's are you under age 24 and can be claimed but not being claimed by somebody else?
They won't give it to you then.
Oh, then you can't get the refund.
That's right.
Next year he could be in a tax situation, so next year I could do that next year if he's paying a couple thousand in taxes, and then we can do that next year. I guess if his income's enough for
if his income's
and he's under he's not under the age of 24. Okay.
He's still under the age of 24.
Yeah. Well, if he's self-supporting, that's one thing. But if he's under the age of 24 and can be claimed as a dependent, then it doesn't work.
Oh, you can't even take the $2,500 credit?
You can, as long as the first part wipes out taxes. The second part is refundable, and he won't qualify for that.
He won't qualify for the second part, but he qualifies for the first part?
For the first part.
Yep.
Oh, okay. All right, good.
All right.
All right, well, they've been very helpful. Thank you.
Thanks, Bob. I mean, I just wanted to clarify for him, that the reason that he's not taking the first part is the kid doesn't have any taxes.
Correct. He only
has
has
the second part, which is the refundable part, he doesn't get anyway because he's under the age of 24 and he can be claimed on the parent's return. A lot of times kids are doing the refundable portion and they're not supposed to, right? So are we doing the news? All right, I'm Esther Gillies, the tax lady. We'll see you on the other side of the news. 8030930, 8030930, star 930 on the cell phone.
Everybody.
I guess everybody better file their tax return by April the 18th, and EG Tax is there to help you. Our offices are open 9 to 9 Monday through Friday, 9 to 5 on Saturday. The last Saturday, which is like the 15th, I think, will be open till 9 o'clock as well at all of our branch offices. We will prepare your return. I'm going to tell you something. If you have the numbers, we will get the return done.
Right. And one other thing, too, is not just the U.S. return is due on April 18th. If you're a U.S. citizen and you have the money sitting in a foreign bank account over $10,000, that lovely FBAR or FinCEN is due on April 15th. So they moved that deadline up 2.5 months. So you got to really check those deadlines and get your
and it's a big penalty. I mean, if you have $10,000 or more in a foreign bank account, I know it's hard to believe that Canada has a foreign bank account, but it is. The penalty can be up to 50% of the
highest value.
The highest value of the account that year. So it's really a big penalty. And again, EG Tax can help you with that. 8030930, 8030930, star 930 cell phone. On the stream here, we got, is a Form SE required on a business that had a loss? No. If the Form SE is to compute the taxable Social Security that you would pay if you had a net profit. But if you have a net loss, you don't
There's
have to pay
no
FICA.
self-employment tax. No.
Right. All right, let's go back to the phones. We'll talk to Robin. Hi, Robin.
Hi, Esther. This is Robin. I just have a question on a foreclosure.
Okay.
It was a forgiveness of debt.
Okay.
So the forgiveness of debt was $42,000, but the property was only worth $27,000. You have to claim the whole $42,000 as a loss.
Is it your personal residence or is it a rental residence?
It was half rental.
So that makes it a little bit interesting, okay? Because your personal half will be tax-free. You'll do a Form 982. Then you have to sell
So on 21,000.
Yep. Whatever
Okay.
the mortgage was outstanding
Right.
is you take half, and that would go to the 982. The other half you would have, believe it or not, you have to sell your rental property for
the 21,000.
Yep.
And you look at your adjusted basis, and then you would, and so that's what would happen. So you actually end up doing a $47.97 on the sale, on the rental portion, and on the personal portion, that part won't be taxable.
Okay. But so
I know it sounds like we're talking to you in
Greek.
some unusual language, but I would suggest, Robin, you go see somebody that knows what they're doing so that you can do it correctly.
Okay, but
Okay.
it's $47.97 on the half that's rental.
Right, and you have to recapture your depreciation.
Right, correct. And the other half would go on the...
982.
Okay.
Okay?
So much.
Thank you.
Okay.
Bye-bye. Okay, so let's see. We are going to go to Sam. Again, 8030930, 8030930, star 930 on a cell phone, and we're going to talk to Sam. Hi, Sam.
Yes, quick question. If you're retired with a pension and on Social Security, but you also have W-2 earnings, can you wipe out the tax deficit by opening an IRA?
Possibly. Give me some figures. So how much is your W-2 income?
About $7,000.
All right,
how old are you?
I beg your pardon?
How old are you?
84.
See, the IRA can only be used in a traditional IRA until age 70 and a half.
Okay.
So good question, Sam, but you're just too young to use this thing. So,
Thank you.
Okay, Sam?
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Good call, Chris. That was a good one.
You gotta, you gotta look at all the laws. And
Let's
how tricky tax
go with
law
this.
is.
Let's say Sam was 70,
Yeah.
all right, and he had $7,000 in wages, and maybe he had a $10,000 pension, and that puts him at 17, and maybe part of his Social Security was taxable, and so let's say his income was 20, and so let's say his tax liability was $1,000. If he would have put $6,500 in an IRA, it would have wiped out the taxability of the Social Security, and naturally it would have gotten rid of the tax liability. So it would have worked, but he was just a little bit too old.
Yes, just a little.
Right, because at 70 and a half, you remember you got to do your required minimum distribution, which means that you're going to take out basically 27 and a half over a 27 and a half year period, sort of. The value of your IRA. So it ends up being a very small amount that you're required to take out. But if you don't take it out, the penalty is
50%
of what you should have taken out. So you want to make sure you do that. Okay? And let's go back to the phones. And we got Joe. Hey, Mr. Joe, how can we help you?
I just got a check from some outfit that claims that I made. What I'm getting is a overpayment for the brokerage fees back in 1983, and it says the.
Was it a class action lawsuit that was filed, Joe?
Well, that's it. This is not a class action lawsuit because as soon as you get a check for a class action, it's from a law firm.
Right.
Nowhere is there a company listed here, but the supposed fund, it says overpaid brokerage fees $148, interest $130. So the check is for $245.
Well, the interest is for sure taxable. okay, as interest.
They're invested in this. There is no fund that I know of called the Value Line Fair Fund.
Okay, well, I don't know about the Value Line Fair Fund. You just got a check now?
Fund.
Joe, when did you get the check?
Pardon? Today.
Okay, so first of all, it's not taxable to next year.
I'm not cashing this check. This is a scam.
Joe, then send it to me and I'll cash it and send you the money. Now, I mean, don't dismiss this out of hand, okay? Because if you cash the money, if you go to the bank and they won't cash it, then you'll know that it's bogus. But cashing the check is not going to hurt you, right? But anyway, if you don't cash it, they're going to send you some kind of a form on it next year anyway. So don't assume it's not good.
Is there a phone number there, Joe?
Pardon?
Is there a phone number?
As a matter of fact, I think there is.
Well, why don't you call Monday, Joe, and assume that maybe it really is. It probably was out of a class action lawsuit. I would not assume that it definitely came from an attorney. That I'd make the investigation first. Okay.
Received class action checks. They were from lawyers.
Well, but you know what? There's so many different things that are going on. Before you decide that this money is not real, call them, okay?
I'll call you Monday.
All right, Joe. Talk to you later.
It could have been pennies from heaven.
It could be.
An Easter
he could
blessing.
take everybody out to Easter
McDonald's.
dinner, right? But sometimes we're so afraid of getting shilled that what we do is we end up shilling ourselves because we won't investigate. When somebody sends me a check, the first thing I think is, and I'm going to try and see if I can cash it, right?
I mean,
because usually there's a reason why.
It could have even been New York State lost funds.
It could be. Could be. That's true. And as a matter of fact, somebody the other day said that I got a text that said, my son was looking for lost funds and they found some in the name of EG Tax. And so it was some deposit that some
merchant services or something.
And they're sending us the money.
Yeah.
So
you never know.
Yep, right. All right. Again, 8030930, 8030930, star 930 on a cell phone. All right. Now, what if you can't pay? We talk about file anyway because of the 5% per month penalty, right?
Yep.
You can set up a payment program. I had a guy that came in yesterday. He was just, he was so depressed. When we got all done, I said what his liability was. And I said, now, you can set up a payment program. He said, you got to be kidding me. I said, no, they'll take payments over time. And he says, if I could just get to next year, because he needed to settle a divorce thing and get out from under credit cards. He took a lot of money out of his pension plan, so he had a large liability. He said, but next year I'll be back in the pink again. If I could just get to next year, they can take the refund and I'm good to go.
Yep.
And I said, they will do that. They'll set up a payment program, take payments, and then whatever left next year, they'll take the refund. So set up a payment program. You can actually do that electronically, can't you?
You can
Chris?
do it. Yep. There's a form you can do right with your tax return. You tell them how much you want to pay and how much, what day of the month, and then they'll send you correspondence. Maybe it's sometimes they want your financial information. Give me your wages, your expenses, and maybe they'll want more, but they would like it paid off, believe it or not, over 6 years. So,
that gives you a lot of time. A lot of time, okay? The other thing is you can pay the liability using your credit card, right? You can put it on your credit card and get the points.
If you have a credit card with 0%, that's a win-win.
That's right, because that's really buying you time at 0%. All right, let's go back to the phones. 8030930, 8030930, star 930 on a cell phone. And we got Dan. Hello, Mr. Dan. How can we help you, sir?
Yes, I'm looking to buy my mother's house. She moved out of state, and she's 84. I'm 60. There'll be income property. I'd like to know what the tax liability would be for both of us as far as, what does she do with that, the proceeds from that?
All right, so is it income property now, Dan?
Well, she just moved, so no.
No. When Mom lived in it, it was a single, right?
It's a double, actually.
All right, so Mom had income.
Correct.
Okay, so it's really looked at as 2 sales when she sells the house, okay? It's just like Chris was saying on the lady that called regarding the foreclosure on her personal residence.
Yep.
When it is investment properties, it's considered a personal sale of a personal and sale of a investment property. Now, on her personal portion, because she lived in it 2 out of the last 5 years, that's completely tax-free, okay, for Mom. Okay. When she sells the rental portion, she has to recapture the depreciation, and there will be a taxable component. Is she selling it to you at fair market value?
A little less, but close.
Okay, well, if she sells it to you at fair market value, then that'll be that. But if she sells it to you at a loss, then she won't be able to take the loss because she's selling it to a relative. Now, for your position, you would, whatever the fair market value, if you've paid fair market value, then that's going to be your basis for depreciation when you start depreciating the house and you rent it out.
Okay, so whatever I purchase it for is what my basis will start at.
That's exactly right.
All right. Well,
all right.
Appreciate that.
All right. Thanks, Dan.
All right.
Bye-bye. And of course, any improvements he makes will increase the basis, and that'll be over a 27.5-year period. Now, you may say to yourself, well, why would I start? How can you start off with a brand new basis? Because she sold the house.
Right. New owner.
Right.
Same thing when you inherit. It's a new owner, so you could start the depreciation all over again.
As a matter of fact, I was doing a tax return the other day, and a gentleman had inherited a house from his wife. It was her house before they got married, and when she passed away, he inherited her half. So, and he ended up selling it, and so he got a stepped-up basis on her property. All right, now let's going back again. 8030930, 8030930, star 930 on your cell phone. I'm Esther Gillius, the tax lady. We will help you with your taxes. This time of year, people that have had outstanding liabilities, they seem to get the guilt. As soon as April comes around, they feel guilty. They haven't filed. They owe money. They don't know what to do.
New Year's Day. I should start exercising.
Something
I should quit
to that
smoking.
effect, yes. And so they're all going to turn over a new leaf. Part of what EG Tax does is we help you to do new leaves, right?
Yep.
Because if you haven't filed in a bunch of years, we can do the bunch of years taxes.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, if the IRS isn't writing you, you know what that says to me? You probably have a refund. Either you don't have to file, or you have a refund coming, because they're going to seize your refund after 3 years.
Right.
So if you have been working and you've had withholding, and the IRS isn't writing you a letter, you probably have a tax refund coming.
Right. And if you're listening right now and you go, boy, they're talking about me. There's a lot of people in that situation. I'm doing 9 years for somebody right now. My wife did 4 years for somebody yesterday. I mean, there's a lot of people out there who haven't filed for years.
Right.
So,
and if they aren't writing you letters, after 3 years, you lose your refund. So, but let's just say that you have outstanding liabilities and you don't know what to do. You can't set up a payment program. This sounds like a long-lost lovelorn line here. What do? Call Ghostbusters. No, you can possibly qualify for an offer in compromise. And that's something EG Tax does too. If you have the inability to pay a liability, there is a way out, and that's called an offer in compromise.
That's right, where you actually can pay pennies on the dollar, depending on your financial situation.
Let's say you had something bad. Let's say you took $100,000 out of your pension plan to pay for medical bills 7 years ago, and so that thing has been dogging you for 6-7 years. You're making little payments. You're now ill. You can't work. That is a perfect example of somebody that would qualify for an offer and compromise.
That's right. That's right. I mean, they'll look at every situation possible, and sometimes it may be an uncollectible status where you won't have to pay anything. It may be you say, okay, I owe you $80,000. Can you take $1,000? And they'll take the $1,000.
That's true.
I mean, it's a wonderful tool.
Right. And that's, again, if you call us, we will help. We will help. And that's part of what and this time of year, people that April is like oh my gosh, it's like January. You're right. I'm going to lose weight in January. This time of year, I got to get straight. We'll help you get straight. But here's the thing with the offer and compromise, because you got to do the 656 and the 433 or whatever it is. These people come in, we get them all. So we're going to say, we're going to help you. Now we need 3 months of proof of your income and expenses.
Yep.
And then they go back away again, and we never hear from them again until next year. So we want to help you, and EG Tax will help. Let's go back to the phones, and we're going to talk to Dolores. Hi, Dolores. How can we help you?
Good. Could you tell me, you were talking about a 5% charge per month
right.
for non-filing.
Right.
But if money is sent to them, they're still taking, even if you send too much, they're not going to bother you, but how long do they take 5% a month?
No. If you have the penalties based upon your outstanding liability. So let's say that you owed $10,000, and when you timely file your return, they will not charge you a $500 penalty that month because you timely filed the return. They're just going to add the 0.5% penalty for failure to pay.
And what if you pay? And let's say you pay $10,000.
Well, then they won't penalize you.
As long as it's paid by the last day of tax
April the 18th, right.
Okay, what if you don't file for a number of years?
Okay, that's the problem. Let's say that way back 3 years ago you owed $10,000.
Right.
By the time you file that return, those accumulated penalties and interest are going to be astronomical.
So in other words, if you owed them, if you pay them $5,000, it can actually accumulate to the $5,000?
It can accumulate to more than that.
It depends on what your balance due is.
So if you owed $10,000 and you get to 25% after 5 months, then the interest is going to be over $3,000 on failure to file penalty. Then on failure to pay penalty, they're going to charge you another 0.5%. Then there's interest on everything.
And what's the interest they charge?
Like just under 3% right now.
Oh, this is extortion.
Well, it's really not, Dolores. They just want you to file the return. If you file the return, all the failure to file penalties go away.
Well, what if you filed just the short form, and you filed the short form, is that...
It has nothing to do with the form. You just have to get the form in, and once the form is in, the failure to file penalty goes away.
No, my question is, if you file, let's say you don't know how much you owe, you don't file, what if you just file the short form, and what's the time frame?
Well, you would have to, if you don't know what you're doing, then you would file an extension.
Right.
Send them what you think you owe. Then you have 6 months to file the correct return and pay them the difference. But you better have paid them at least 90% of what you thought of what you owe.
Speaking of an extension, when you file the extension, if you don't pay the taxes with the extension, you have really just wasted your time, because the penalty, because unless the liability is paid with the extension, then it's not a good
The extension
value.
is for paperwork, not for money.
That's exactly right. Let's go back to the phone, and we're going to talk to Tony. Hi, Tony. How can we help you?
Hi there, Esther. Can I write off the interest paid off of my small business credit cards?
You have a small business?
I own a small business.
All right, and those business cards are used to operate your business, and the debt on the business card is due to business debt, not your personal debt.
That's correct.
Yeah, then it would be deductible against your business.
So I can take all that interest I paid all last year.
As long as it's for your business, paid by your business, and it's not personal.
Absolutely, right.
And if they hit you with the $29 annual fee, those fees
are also deductible. Yeah.
Correct. Okay.
All right.
It's only off of my business credit cards, not.
That's right. In other words,
correct.
That you cannot take credit card debt on a personal return, but you can take credit card debt used for business against your business return if it's used for business purposes.
Right.
Okay?
I separated those two cards. Okay.
All right. Thanks, Tony.
You're welcome.
Bye-bye. All right, let's see. Let's go back here and talk about before we leave. All right, don't forget to do your RMDs. All right, if you're unable to pay because of a hardship, that's another reason to get out of paying. Okay. All right. So now remember the extension, like we were talking about with Chris, only extends the time to get the paperwork in. The liability is due April the 18th.
That's right. That's right. So you got to get the money in.
Right.
So, but if you come up, say you owe this year, you owe $8,000. And if it wasn't because you had to take money out, you changed your withholding. Get it corrected.
Oh,
for
that's
next
another
year.
great point. If you found out this year that you owe money because you changed your withholding, go and change it back as soon as possible. We are already into April.
Yep.
So if last year you had a problem and you owed money because you had changed your withholding, you've already left January, February, and March go. Change it Monday.
Yep.
So that they can
you
correct
lost your children on your tax return, so you lost the education credit, you lost the dependency. That's $3,000, and you didn't change.
All right, now here's some little tidbits before we run. If you have somebody in a nursing home that's a private pay patient, they're entitled to a refund, right, Chris?
Yep.
They get the refund of the bed tax.
Correct.
6% bed tax,
even though they charge 7%.
Right. Firefighter credits for people that are full-time, that are firefighters, volunteer firefighters, up to $200 in New York State, right?
Yep.
And don't forget the refundable daycare credit and the earned income credit in New York State. All right, if you need us, the best tax help in the area, EG Tax is open 9 to 9 Monday through Friday, 9 to 5 on Saturday. If you need us, go online at egtax.com. Have a wonderful week. God bless. Bye-bye.